And as those talks in Cairo continue, Benny Gantz, an influential member of the Israeli war cabinet, has been meeting with top U.S. officials at the White House. This visit is being seen as further signs of Washington's growing frustration over the war in Gaza. Gantz is a former defense minister and political rival of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who agreed to enter an emergency unity government following the October 7th terror attacks by Hamas. Gantz is meeting Secretary of State Antony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Yesterday, he sat down with Vice President Kamala Harris, who called for more aid to be allowed into Gaza. She also called for a ceasefire. Let's bring in DW correspondent Felix Tamsut, who joins us now from Jerusalem. So how is Gantz's visit being seen by Netanyahu's administration in Israel?
Well, you could say that the reactions from within Netanyahu's government have been very, very critical of Benny Gantz's visit. One senior Likud member has used the term Trojan horse to describe Benny Gantz's trip to the U.S. and later to London as well. Another prominent member of Netanyahu's government, Finance Minister Smotrich, said the U.S. is trying to divide the Israeli government and its society. So reactions have been very, very critical, and this comes at a time when conflicts within Netanyahu's government are also growing on other issues. So it's definitely one to watch in the coming weeks to see how Netanyahu and his government will deal with those issues and those conflicts within its own ranks.
It's no secret that the current U.S. administration is extremely frustrated with Israel. We've just seen that from the rhetoric in the past weeks and how it has escalated. How united is the Israeli government in the face of that?
Well, it really depends. If we're talking about the more right-wing elements of Netanyahu's government, you could say that they stand behind Netanyahu's approach. They even call for a more, say, conservative right-wing approach, meaning less talks about a ceasefire, less talks about reaching a deal with Hamas, more talks of prolonging the war and reaching this final victory that they talk about. On the other end, there's Benny Gantz's party, which is considered by many as the voice of reasons. I would assume that it's also the case from within the American administration. This is a result of the very open criticism of the American administration against the Netanyahu government and its right and partly far-right elements, indeed. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out in the coming weeks in terms of the relations between the two countries and governments.
How high is the pressure on the Israeli government right now? I mean, can we expect major changes, either within the government itself or the wartime cabinet, for example?
I don't think we should expect any major changes just yet. But having said that, we are talking about a government that's under pressure due to the war in Gaza, due to other reasons, for instance, the enlistment of the ultra-Orthodox community to the Israeli army. And the rising tensions with the U.S. government is just something which adds more and more pressure upon the Israeli government at the moment. This means we're going to see more and more voices from within Israel's liberal politics demanding such actions, such as Gantz's trip to the U.S. and talking about him leaving the government. Again, we're also talking about a time in which the Israeli liberal the liberal parts of the Israeli society are also protesting, calling for elections. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out.
DW correspondent Felix Tamsut, thank you. Meanwhile, the United States and Jordan have airdropped more aid packages into the Gaza Strip. The U.S. military says that almost 37,000 meals were dropped into the territory in a joint operation on Tuesday. But with the humanitarian crisis nearing catastrophic levels, critics say the amount is only a fraction of what is needed, and the UN is calling on the international community to, quote, flood Gaza with aid.
Panic and chaos as men in Gaza City run around in a frenzy to find food. Countries such as Egypt, Jordan, France, and now the US have been dropping aid from above. But there are too many people in need, and there's not enough aid.
We have the willingness and ability to bear it. But is there a father in the world who can see his children writhing in hunger in front of him and remain silent? Even if the price is risking his life, just like all these people who risked their lives, in order to obtain what is not even enough, for a crumb of flour or aid or canned food. Yesterday, some expired canned goods arrived, containing mold and fungus. We are not animals, as they described us.
Over the weekend, workers from the UN and the WHO rushed in to provide supplies to hospitals. Medicines and fuel are running critically low, and this is costing children their lives.
Unfortunately, yes, we have lost 2 babies here. They had pneumonia, but they died because of the power cut. The power went off at 4 a.m., and at 8 a.m. we were out of oxygen.
Many others have died from hunger, according to the visiting team from the WHO.
There is no milk or anything. The situation is bad, indescribable. We're not able to get him anything.
These deaths come as the bombing outside continues, and bodies fill up floors. Some were so young, they barely had the chance to live.